What you think, you become. This is not just a motivational phrase, but a foundational truth whispered across centuries by the greatest minds in human history. From the silent meditation chambers of ancient Greece to the battlefields of empires, from the Stoic writings etched in fading ink to the pages of modern self-development, this idea has remained constant. Thought is the seed. Action is the growth. Identity is the fruit. Plato believed that the mind shapes the soul, that what we allow into our thoughts sculpts who we are moment by moment. For him, the world of forms, the perfect ideals, existed beyond the senses, but it was through right thinking that we could rise toward those ideals, to become not just good, but truly human. Marcus Aurelius, writing alone in his journal under the dim torchlight of his Roman tent, reminded himself daily that our life is what our thoughts make it. Not circumstances, not fate, not even the chaos of war, but the quiet, disciplined formation of thought. He did not write for an audience. He wrote to train himself, to keep his mind from becoming a battlefield of distractions and self-pity. In his world, as in ours, suffering was inevitable. But to suffer with purpose, to mold pain into wisdom, required mental discipline. He believed that when we train our thoughts, we become the master of our fate. Friedrich Nietzsche pushed further. He did not merely accept that thought shapes reality. He demanded it. To him, man must become who he is, not in surrender, but in rebellion, not by obeying external truths, but by forging internal power. Nietzsche did not speak of comfort, but of struggle, of the will to power, of becoming through resistance. Thought to him was not passive. It was the furnace in which character is forged. The path from thought to becoming is not instantaneous. It is slow, subtle, and relentless. Thought becomes belief. Belief becomes habit. Habit becomes character. And character becomes destiny. This chain of becoming has been outlined by every serious philosopher and teacher who sought to understand how men rise and how they fall. Napoleon Hill, in his meticulous study of successful people, made it clear whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But the danger lies not in what we consciously believe. It is in what we accept without question. Most people do not think. They react. They repeat. They inherit mental patterns shaped by parents, teachers, governments, and peers. They become echoes of others, not authors of themselves. Epictetus, born into slavery, found freedom through thought. He taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our interpretations of them. In other words, it is not what happens to us, but how we think about it that determines our inner state. You can imprison a man, beat him, strip him of all possessions, but if his mind is firm, if he chooses his interpretation, he remains sovereign. No tyrant can conquer the man who has mastered his own perception. The battlefield is not external, it is internal. Buddha, centuries earlier, spoke almost the same truth. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. But this is not just poetic wisdom. It is an instruction. Your mind is a lens, and what you see depends on how it has been shaped. If it is cracked by bitterness, everything you witness will seem hostile. If it is clouded by fear, the world will shrink before you. But if it is clean, focused, and strengthened through clarity, you will see things as they are, and not as your wounds would have you see them. You are not simply what you are born as. You are what you cultivate day by day through the discipline of your own mind. Every moment you think, whether passively or actively, you are feeding something. You're training something. Either you're reinforcing weakness or forging strength. This is why great thinkers from every era taught the necessity of self-observation. To watch your thoughts as they arise. To question them, challenge them, and, when necessary, destroy them. Lao Tzu once wrote that mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. And this mastery does not begin in crisis, it begins in silence. When the noise of the world fades and you're left alone with yourself, that is where the real training starts. Most people run from this silence. They escape into distraction, noise, Novelty screens stimulation, but that which is uncomfortable is often what is necessary. Marcus Aurelius meditated not with incense, but with responsibility. His thoughts were tools. His journals were weapons against his own impulses. To train thought is to train destiny. And the only way to train it is through repeated, conscious, uncomfortable effort. Not just once, not just when things are calm, but daily, especially when your thoughts want to escape into fantasy, resentment, or despair. Napoleon Hill warned that idle drifting, letting the mind wander without aim, was the enemy of greatness. He called it hypnotic rhythm, the momentum of unconscious living. Most people are not guided by intention. They are dragged by patterns. They are pulled not by purpose, but by habit. Carl Jung called these forces the shadow, the unconscious energies we refuse to confront, but which still steer our lives in secret. Until you bring that shadow into the light, it rules you, and you call it fate. You cannot control everything that happens around you, but you can control how you respond within. This is the essence of power, not domination over others, but dominion over self. Seneca taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. And mastery begins not with force, but with awareness. When you learn to notice the gap between stimulus and response, that moment of space where choice exists, you begin to step out of reactivity and into creation. You stop being a slave to the world and begin shaping it from within. Most people live unconsciously, carried along by mood, habit, and circumstance. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right conditions. They wait for peace to arrive. But peace is not something given. It is something chosen. It is built moment by the one who refuses to let emotion dictate direction. James Allen wrote, "A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts." Every angry reaction, every jealous glance, every fearful retreat, these are not mere moments. They are bricks in the construction of a life. And if you do not choose your thoughts, your emotions will choose for you. Viktor Frankl survived a concentration camp, not by controlling his circumstances, but by choosing meaning. He wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This idea is not limited to moments of suffering. It applies to every ordinary hour. How do you meet delay? Criticism? Rejection? Failure? These moments expose your inner world more clearly than any success. If you're defined by what happens outside you, you are not yet free. But when you decide who you are in the quiet, when no one is watching, that is where freedom begins. Your environment is not just where you live, it is what you let into your mind. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the people you surround yourself with, all of it feeds your thoughts. And as your thoughts are shaped, so are you. If you surround yourself with chaos, chaos will live in you. If you surround yourself with order, purpose, and vision, those two will take root. The mind is porous. It absorbs whatever is present. And what is absorbed becomes belief. What becomes belief becomes behavior. This is why intention is not just helpful, it is essential. You must choose what enters your field of awareness. You must become the gatekeeper of your own mental world. You are not obligated to allow every voice in. You are not required to engage every impulse. The world will always throw distraction in your path, but distraction only wins if you let it pass the gate. Bruce Lee said, "The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus." You don't need more power. You need less noise. Focus is power. When you focus your thought, you carve pathways into the fabric of reality. You take the formless potential of life and shape it with clarity. The scattered mind touches many things and changes none. But the disciplined mind, even with limited resources, reshapes the world. Mountains are moved not by force, but by intention applied consistently without being pulled apart by the world's noise. You are always becoming. Even now, even here, the only question is, who are you becoming? Are you crafting that answer, or are you inheriting it from your surroundings? from your fears, from your past. The work of shaping yourself is never done, but it is always worth doing, because in that work lies freedom. In that work lies peace. And in that work, repeated, invisible, often thankless, you become what you were meant to be. There is no neutral identity. You are either becoming more of who you truly are or more of who the world wants you to be. And the world rarely wants your strength. It wants your compliance. It wants your distraction. A society built on consumption cannot survive if you become whole within yourself. Wholeness breeds clarity. Clarity breeds refusal. And those who can refuse, who can say no to what is unworthy, are dangerous to systems built on manipulation. Soren Kierkegaard wrote that the greatest danger is losing yourself, not by force, but by forgetfulness. You don't wake up one day having lost your soul. You lose it slowly, piece by piece, by not remembering who you are, by letting convenience replace conviction, by making small choices that echo someone else's values. This is why philosophy matters, not as abstract thought, but as a mirror, a reminder, a sword. You do not think to entertain yourself. You think to remain awake. Alan Watts said, "The reason you want to be better is the reason you aren't." He pointed to the trap of self-improvement as endless chasing. When your sense of self is always not yet, you postpone your own peace. Growth is not a rejection of who you are. It is a refinement. You are not broken to be fixed. You are becoming, but you already are. And this paradox must be accepted, or your ambition will only feed your suffering. To become who you are, you must first be still, not passive. Still, there's a difference. Stillness is not inactivity. It is alert presence. It is what happens when you stop trying to become something for the world and start listening to what is already within you. The fire, the longing, the sense that you were made for more than repetition, that your life is not a loop, but a spiral, meant to rise. Consciousness is not an accident. It is a responsibility. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the signal, the fire that exposes what must be seen. What you avoid in pain is often the very thing that holds the key to your growth. Carl Jung said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." You cannot rise unless you first descend. You cannot transform unless you confront what's buried. This is why healing is not always peaceful. Sometimes, healing looks like breaking down, like sobbing, like standing in the ashes of what no longer serves you. But ashes are not the end. They're the soil of what comes next. You don't become whole by escaping darkness. You become whole by bringing light into it. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. What breaks you open is also what allows the truth to enter. Not the surface truth, but the deep, unwelcome, raw truth. And when you allow yourself to see what is, rather than what you wish were true, you begin the path of maturity. Not just knowledge, wisdom. Many people seek to transcend suffering by numbing it. They pretend they've evolved past pain, when in fact they've only hidden from it. But buried pain does not vanish. It festers. It shapes you without consent. And the only way out is through. Nietzsche urged us not to look away from difficulty, but to face it directly, to say yes to life even when it burns. Because only the person who has suffered deeply can walk through the world with real compassion, not just concepts. Depth does not come from books. It comes from experience, from staying conscious in suffering, from resisting the urge to collapse into despair, from holding the tension of opposites, light and dark, joy and pain, without choosing a side. Wholeness is not perfection. It is integration. It is the courage to hold your brokenness and your strength in the same breath, and to walk forward anyway. You're not a finished product. You're a process, a becoming. The moment you declare yourself complete is the moment growth ends. And when growth ends, decay begins. Life is motion. Kreischischern. Becoming. And so long as you breathe, the work continues. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not who you will be tomorrow. You are what you choose today. Every thought is a vote. Every action is a brick. Every response is a thread in the fabric of your character. This is why awareness matters. not to shame yourself into progress, but to guide your energy with precision. No one drifts into greatness. Greatness is carved. Repetition is not failure. It is form. The sculptor does not resent each strike of the chisel. He knows its shapes will last. There will be days when you forget, days when the fog returns, when your thoughts betray you, when your old patterns try to reclaim you. That is not weakness. That is the path. No great life is built in straight lines. The hero falls and rises 1,000 times. The philosopher returns again and again to the same truths, not because he is lost, but because he is devoted. The truth is not a destination. It is a companion. You are not here to impress. You are here to remember, to return, to become, and not for applause, not for perfection, but for alignment, to live a life that reflects your deepest values, your clearest awareness, and your highest willingness to act. This is what it means to live awake, not without struggle, but with eyes open, not without doubt, but with heart. You are not just the thinker of your thoughts. You are the watcher, the chooser, the creator, and every moment, even now, is a chance to begin again.